Okay, last class we saw the life cycle of the servlet, how the server is executing all that. So still we'll get a better grip onto that. See, what I'm trying to actually do is, first I gave you a diagrammatical view, like how the things are happening in the server. Then I gave it the nodes. Okay, first I gave it in a pictorial view, then I gave nodes. Now I'll explain it from code point of view, how the things are getting executed in the server. So all these things if you understand, then only you'll get the grip onto how the code is running inside your server. Now that is one side, and again what I am trying to explain right now is the Servlet API. Okay, means what are the different classes and interfaces in the Servlet API, what are the different methods present there and all that. Clear? So what you have to understand now, again very important interview question, say this. Servlet is the main interface here. There's an interface by name Servlet. Clear? Now this interface, this is an interface. Obviously if it is an interface, what will you do? It will be implemented. So understand the hierarchy here. Very important interview question. This also. All are interview questions. This is the generic servlet, which is implementing what? Servlet. Then you'll have HTTP servlet, which extends generic servlet. Then you'll have our hello servlet or whatever. Yeah, hello servlet or hi servlet, whatever servlet. I'll name it as login servlet only. Login servlet, which is extending what? HTTP servlet. So this is the hierarchy actually. Clear? And you can have a login servlet which can extend what? Login servlet. Understand all this hierarchy because you'll be ending up finally with some interview questions. Yeah? Lot of interview questions will be asked. So login servlet can either extend HTTP servlet or it can extend what? Generic servlet. There are two options for you. This is actually the hierarchy how you go on writing. So these are our classes, which one login servlet is a class. So till now we are doing this only. We are extending what? We are extending HTTP servlet. And now clearly understand the methods what we use now, init, service and destroy method. The lifecycle methods are present in the interface called as what now? Servlet. So this is a very important question. Where are the lifecycle methods present? They are present in the interface called as Servlet. Till now we understood how it is working now. Now we are going to the code where this method comes in the API. It means this method is present in which interface, all that we are studying now. So the lifecycle methods are present in Servlet API. Servlet interface, sorry. In the Servlet API, Servlet is on interface. Okay, in that Servlet interface you are having these three methods. Now the same hierarchy I'll start explaining now. See here with code. Understood? So this is how the server vendor goes on implementing the code inside the server. So we have to actually understand now how the code is executed inside the server. Then see what is the vendor doing first, you see that. Who? Server vendor. And for doing this, who has set the specification? Sun. So that's why it becomes important for both of us to learn. Why? For us to use, for him to, which one? For server vendors to implement. So story continues. So see, this is the interface. There are three methods now. Init is a method present in what? Servlet interface. The parameter of init method is servlet config. There is one service method. The two parameters of service method are servlet request and servlet response. So servlet request and servlet response are super interface. Super interface of what? HTTP servlet and HTTP servlet request and HTTP servlet response. So this is a big API now. Yes, servlet request is a sub interface of what? Sorry, super interface. Servlet request, likewise servlet response. Okay, see, servlet request is a super interface of HTTP servlet request. Same way, servlet response, what we are using now here is the super interface of HTTP servlet response. They are interfaces. And this is one more method, void destroy. So there are three methods. So obviously, how strong you are in Java, that better you can understand the code. Nothing else is there. These are only nothing but identifying what? Members of the class. I am boiling down to the simple part, which are no pointer. Class interface servlet is having what? Three methods. Okay, which are there? Init, service and destroy. That's it. I am boiling down to simple members of the class, nothing else. Understood? So see, now in Servlet interface there are some more extra methods. If you open the document, you can see a Java docs. If you open the Java docs, definitely you can see some more extra methods. But we are focusing on the most important methods which the developer should know. So clear this? So it is having this. Now next, what is happening here? Clearly observe this. This is generic servlet. This is generic servlet. One second, it is abstract class. It is an abstract class. Please make a note. Okay. abstract class generic servlet implements what? Servlet. Now why is this an abstract class? Let's notice. See, it is implementing init, it is implementing destroy, but it is not implementing service method. So this is doing partial implementation, and if it is doing partial implementation, if it has abstract method, obviously this class becomes what? Abstract class. So abstract classes contain what? Partial implementation. Interfaces are open for implementation, abstract classes contain partial implementation. Yes, we are getting into pure core Java now. Fine, next. So they have not implemented the service method. Are you clear? Fine. Now one more thing. Here, one second. Even this is also a very important interview question. See, everything is correct, just add abstract to it. Abstract class, everything is correct. HTTP servlet extends generic servlet. Done? Just add abstract, nothing else. So now see, what is HTTP servlet doing? It is extending it. Which one? Generic servlet. It is overriding that service method. When you extend an abstract class, what you have to do? You have to give the body for the abstract method. So you are overriding and giving the body for what? This service method. This is done. Okay. Now what is this service method trying to do? Notice, means it will, whatever parameters are there, okay, it will typecache them to HTTP servlet request, and it will invoke which one? One more service method. So if it invoke, see, these are all members of, now carefully understand, generic servlet had 3 members. Now HTTP servlet is having these many members. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are all members of what? Still more members are there in what? HTTP servlet. Observe the members first. Still more members are there. Okay. So what is HTTP servlet doing? It is having one service. It will typecache it and call one more service. That other service is there in the same class. Means what is this? If you are having one more service, what is this called now? Overloading. Here they are overriding. This is overloading. Overloading means what? See the parameters. HTTP servlet request, HTTP servlet response. So now this service will actually invoke what? This service. And again notice, what is this service going to do? Request dot get method. There is a method called as get method in the interface called as what? HTTP servlet request. So request dot get method, if you call, it will give you the type of request which the user has done, means get or post, like that. So if it is get, what it will do? It will invoke do get. If it is post, it will invoke which method? Do post. So this service method is the one which goes on calling your do get or do post method. The service method is the one which goes on to invoke your do get or do post method, depending on what request the client is making. Like you'll be telling the form action is equal to method is equal to get. So if it is get, it will invoke do get. If it is post, it will invoke do post. And look, do get, do post, do head, all those 8 methods. The browser can generate 8 HTTP requests now. What are the different requests the browser can generate? We are learning get and post. But there are 8 more requests, totally 8 requests which the browser can make. Get, post, put, head, do, trace. So many are there. Understood? Trace, delete, options. So many are there. For all those HTTP requests, you have got some methods here, like do head, do put, do post, do options. For every type of HTTP request, there are 8 types. You know that now? Put, what is that? Post, get. Third one is put. Fourth one is head, like that. 8 are there. I'll show you the list. Okay, we have written it down already. So what type of HTTP request is there? That many do methods you are having here. Clear? So this is the one, do head. Still more you are having. I have not written it. I have not written it. See, it's still continued. Clear? So every time the request is coming, it will go on to invoke what? This method now. So this is the flow. Let us see how things are getting executed now. Now I'll clearly tell you when the request comes, what exactly happens. So I just explained you the members of the different interfaces and classes now. So once you identified the members, let's start seeing now. See, how do you write your code? See, this is how you write your code now. Class login servlet extends HTTP servlet. And if you are interested, you have the option. It's not mandatory you have to override. You can override which one? Init method you can override do get or do post, whatever it is. This is what you have been doing. HTTP servlet request REQ, comma HTTP servlet response RES, and if you want you can override destroy method. This is what the logic what we have learned till now. So in fact we are overriding the methods. init, do get, do post are all methods coming from superclass. Which one? HTTP servlet. Done? In fact do get is purely coming from what? HTTP servlet only. init and destroy are coming from servlet interface. Like that they'll be inherited and you can override this. And it has been so designed that this will execute only once. You know that now? Okay. And destroy also will execute only once and this will execute n number of times. This is what we have been learning now. So now we are seeing with code now. First I showed you with diagrams, this is how it will execute. Then I showed you with notes. Then I am talking on program now, code. This will give you the clear picture now, how things are working now. So let's say when the first request comes, what happens now? When the first request comes now. Yes, see this. When the first request comes, this is the code which will execute now. String str is equal to request dot get URI. There is a method. Who is calling this? Container. See, client will make a simple request and this will be handed to your server. Server will, inside the server you are having what? Container. The servlet container will call this method. The request objects will be created now. The two request and response objects will be created. As soon as the request comes, what is happening here? So you know the flow diagram I have given you many times. Just understand, I don't have space here. So when the request comes, okay, this is the container now, and you'll be having the request and response object. So the request and request object contains the complete information now. The form action value, method is equal to get. So all this information, that information is where now? In this request object. So that is where first the container will call now. Okay, which one? Request start get URI. When the container calls this, actually this value what it will be getting is the value of the form tag. Form action is equal to, you'll be writing now, that value will be got there now. Clear? So now what it will do? If str dot equals, parsing has happened already. The web.xml has already parsed. If it is something like check, example, because we have done the login servlet mapping, you know how for login servlet I have done the mapping as check login servlet. The mapping what I have done, check is the URI, login is the servlet name, login servlet is the servlet class. So when this is the mapping, so it will identify now. If it is equal to check, supposingly form action, here I will write form action is equal to dot slash check. If it is check, it has to execute on servlet by name, means class login servlet. So what it will do? It will load now first time class dot for name, means it is read, actually this information is read now, okay, and it will be loading it com dot cluster dot login servlet. So it will load it. If it is so and so, class dot for name, dynamic loading will happen. Class dot for name of com dot cluster dot login servlet. It will load it. After loading, okay, only class has been loaded. But if you want your code to come into existence, object has to be created. So container will next call what? New instance method. Morning means the last class I gave you this code, light code. Now I am explaining that code to you. Servlet s is equal to c dot new instance. Means you have to typecast it. Otherwise return type of new instance is object. So it will be typecasted to what? Servlet c dot new instance. So once it is typecasted, next it will create one more object that we will be discussing later. Servlet config is equal to, means variable, some variable name I am giving. Config is equal to new servlet config impl, means the implementation of it. Let me write it like this. Servlet config is equal to new servlet config impl, means one class which is implementing what? It's an interface now. Servlet is an interface, servlet config. So an object of the class which is implementing it will be created. After creating that object, now see, why they are typecasted now? To call the methods. Okay, now they'll call what you know, s dot init and pass config object. So means, see, when the Servlet object has created, which object got created now? Login Servlet. Imagine the number of members in login Servlet. You are thinking only 3 members are there, but actual members of your class are how many? All this. Inheritance now. Login Servlet is extending HTTP Servlet. HTTP Servlet is extending generic Servlet. This is the hierarchy now. Yes. So when the object of login Servlet is created, the methods are searched from where? Bottom. You know the rule of Java now. Overriding. So if you are overriding, which method gets executed? Init method from your class gets executed. If not, it will be called from superclass. Understood? If you are overriding init method, that init method will be called from your class. Otherwise, it will be called from where? Generic Servlet. Understood? Otherwise, it will be called from generic Servlet because they are doing the implementation. But fact is, I think they are not doing any implementation. Then blindly they have deceived the compiler by opening it and closing it. Nothing else they are doing. So that's why init will be executed. That's okay. If you are overriding, yours will be executed. If you are not overriding, from generic Servlet it will be executed. That's okay. Next I'll call s dot means I means what? Container. S dot service. It will pass those request and response objects which have been created. Understood? So this was your login Servlet. Now here all your methods are getting executed. I have written it here. See, this is your login Servlet ls. First, which method got executed? Init. Now s dot service. What are the arguments now? Servlet request REQ, Servlet response RES. So now again service method is searched where? First, in your class only. Are you having service method? No. So if you are not having service, where it will go? Super class. You know how the method execution happens. First it will search in the bottom class. If not found, it will go to the super class. So here it will find, see, the argument passed are of type Servlet request REQ, Servlet response RES. These two objects are of type what you know? Servlet request REQ and Servlet response RES. So in fact this method gets executed. This one. So now what happens? What will this service do now? It will typecast and it call HTTP service method. So understand the difference between this service and this service. This is called interview, very important interview question. This is called as generic service. Understood? Generic service method. The generic service method invokes the HTTP service method, we say. Generic service method invokes the HTTP, means that method invokes this method. That's it. It will typecast and it invoke it. What is this going to do now? What is the service method doing? Calls the method, which one? Request dot get method. It will find out now whether it is get, post or what it is. So based on that, which method it is invoking? Do get or do post. Okay. So now it will call do get or do post. Supposing I made form action is equal to, if I have not written anything here, it is what? Get. So it has to invoke default is what? Get now. So now again do get has to be executed. From where it will execute? Every time a method is called, the method is searched first in your class. So your method gets executed. Understood? If you are if it was post, it would have executed which one? Do post. So it becomes highly mandatory for you to use this method only. If you don't use do post or do get, what will happen? You get exception because see, it is trying to invoke which one? If it is get, it will invoke do get. If it is post, it will invoke do post. If you are not overriding any of these methods, which method will execute? The method in the same class. When the method in the same class executes, what will happen? Throws an exception. See here. If you are not overriding, and the method in the subclass gets executed, and that will go into throw on exception now. So it's mandatory that you have to override what now? Do get or do post only. Any other method, exception will start occurring now. This is how they have written the code. So it becomes highly mandatory for you to override either do get or do post or do head or do put or do trace, anything. But we application developers generally go with only two methods, which one? Do get or do post. So clear with this? So first, which method is executed? Generic service. Generic service method executes which one? HTTP service. HTTP service finds out what type of a method request has come. So depending on that get, post, it will invoke the do get. But first it will not invoke do get in this class. It will check in your class. If it is not there in that class, then it will be calling the do get and do post in the same class. So it becomes highly mandatory for the developer to override do get or do post. Means on rule it is. Understood? It is on rule. Otherwise exception will occur. Are you clear? So this is happening for the first request. Second request, what will happen? Only two steps. Which one? S dot equals. Which one will be called? S start service. Morning I had explained to it. It will not go on to do all this. Directly it will be invoking the only two steps. This one and this one. In the second request. I will write second request here. Okay. 1 second. I don't have space. Just understand, man. If it is second request, it will call only. It will go on calling service. So every time a request comes, this service is invoked. This service will again invoke what? HTTP service. Again this will invoke. Find out what type of method has made the request, get or post. Depending on that, again your method gets executed. So every time this flow will go on now. So every time it will check and it will go on executing. Are you clear with the flow now? So you should be careful in overriding. This is pure concept of inheritance, overriding, overloading. This is purely related to Java now. Only instead of using M1, M2 method, we are using which method? Some good names like init method, service method. This I have taught you very strongly in Java. How overriding and all that happens. Clear this concept? Clear this concept? Fine. Yeah, these are the things go on executing here. Yes. So now, yeah, more things we'll see here. If you want second request here, I'll call second request onwards. Directly it will be doing what? This is first request now. It will call, okay, sorry, request. One more extra step will come. String str is equal to request dot get URI string str. Same code, okay. If str dot equals of check, which one will be executed? Directly it will call the method s dot service. The two objects have been created now. Who created these two objects? The thread. It will invoke it. Starts off again. That one will call this one will call do get. Do get it is called from your class. So always first methods are searched in your class. So I wrote the hierarchy, that's why I see this. Login servlet is extending what? HTTP servlet. HTTP servlet is extending what? Generic servlet. So first methods are searched in your class. If not found, HTTP servlet class. If not found, generic servlet class. Like this. Is the hierarchy. Yeah? So inheritance is very important here. So this is the flow. Fine. Shall I clear all this what I have written now? First request, second request and all that? Fine. Now some tricky interview questions would be, you got the flow now. Now interview questions now. Once you got the flow, why? See, one thing you understand now. No interviewer will ask you to write this code. Now you might have a question, why am I teaching you this when interviewer is not going to ask, correct? Huh? One for your knowledge. Second is to crack the most powerful interview questions now. You get this flow now. Now I will start building all the interview questions now. Any question you will answer now. Understood? The main reason why I taught you this flow is to crack the interview questions. If you want knowledge, take it or leave it. That is secondary now. Okay. But mainly why I focused on this flow is for cracking the interview questions. Flow, just for start following now. One of your first question would be, I don't know whether my get is post, whether I'm getting the request as get or post, but I want my code to be executed. You got the question? Huh? The user can make either a get request or post request, or other way. Let the request be anything. I want my code to be executed here. It can be get or it can be post. So what will you do now? Because it is get, you have to override what here? Do get. If it is post, you have to override do post. Now you don't know only. What will you do? Yeah, one is that excellent answer. Which one? You can override which service? HTTP service. Directly you can override. Excellent answer. That's one good answer. See, now getting the answers. Public class login servlet extends HTTP servlet. So you override HTTP service method. Answer is that. Don't tell I'll override service. What is the answer you have to tell? I'll override HTTP service method. Terminologies. Understood? So you'll override public void service. Now which service you'll call? This one. HTTP servlet request REQ, HTTP servlet response. This will work. Try it today. If you want init destroy, you have. That is extra. That is optional. We are only concentrating on service method now. Init destroy is your option now. So yes, now see, when the request comes, this service method will be invoked now. Okay, what is this service going to do? Typecast and call HTTP service method. So first, where will the method be searched? In your class, overriding now. Because see, the hierarchy is this, do not forget the hierarchy. Login servlet is extending what? HTTP servlet. This is extending what? Generic servlet. So an S dot service is invoked. Okay, first this service will execute. And this is invoking the other service. So every time a method is invoked, it is searching in your class. Remember that. If it is there, here only it will execute. So this code will not execute. It will be bypassed. Directly this service will call which one? Your service. Understood? So this is a very important question. I don't know whether the request is get or post. I want my code to execute this. One answer is override directly HTTP service method. This is one answer. Okay. One more way is there. Can you guess? This is perfect. Finally, you will be seeing only service you will be writing. We will never write do get and do post. Reasons you will be understanding. You will never write do get and do post from now on. Okay. So you will always be going with what? Service method. The technical answer for that would be when you write big applications. Till now you are writing in one application 2-3 servlets. Later on you will see that in one application you will have only one servlet. So you will never know whether the request is get or post. So obviously in that case what you have to do? Override service only. You will see it all technically with more examples. I will be clarifying your doubts. So you will be having only one servlet, and that is the reason you will be overriding always service only. And you will never know, because one time the request can be what? Get. One more time the request can be post. So when that is the case, how will you handle now? So that is why you override service method. That's why it's a valid interview question. Understood? So then next, one more way is there, but we don't take that approach. But interviewer wants to check how good you are with the Servlet API now. Understood? So let's see this. One option is this. Other option would be, see this first option, override the HTTP service. The second option now, public class, okay, anyway you write it down, login servlet extends HTTP servlet. This is fine. Now you write your do get only. Write HTTP servlet request REQ, comma HTTP servlet response RES. Fine. Write all your logic. No problem. Okay. You are overriding actually do get now. What you will do? Override do post also. Both you override. Both you override. And then what you will do? If you are a good Java programmer, you will get the answer now. This shows how good you are in Java. That's it. Do post will call do get. Simple. See how good you are in Java now. Perfect. My training is now paying off. Yes or no? Don't write any logic here. Just invoke it. And it can be done ulta also. If you want to write this logic in do get, or from do post you invoke. Write all the logic in do post, and from do get invoke do post. Ulta also you can do. Now let any request come. If it is get, directly which method will be executed? This one. If it is get, do get will execute. If it is post, this will execute. Means you know the flow. Service. Your do post is executed. Your do post will invoke what now? This do get, which is in the same class. This is also one more approach, but we don't take this. So these are the two possible options you have. Okay. When you don't know what type of a request is coming, to execute your logic. Either one is override HTTP service method, or override both. Which one? Do get and do post. Override both. Write the logic in any method and call the method from one method. Yes, you got it now. Write the logic in one method and from the other method invoke that method. So if it is get, this will execute directly. If it is post, do post will be invoked, and do post will invoke your do get method. Done? So this is your most important interview question. Okay. Now these answers you are getting only because you understood this flow. Understood? Otherwise you would have by-hearted. But now you will answer very fluently. Clear? Fine. This is one thing now. Yes. Till now we were learning how to write HTTP servlets. Right? Now see. Shall I clear all this now? One more important interview question is there. If you want, you can write your servlet by extending what you know. Generic servlet also. This is also a valid one. Public class login servlet extends what? Generic servlet. This is highly valid. Today you can try all this. Okay. Practically you will not be doing. Application wise we will not do all this coding. But today you can try doing all this R&D. Whatever I am covering now. Which one? Overriding service. Now either make the get request or post request. Then other one is override do get and do post. Try all that. Now the next one is this one. Which one? Public class login servlet extends generic servlet. Now if you extend generic servlet, which method will you override? You cannot override these methods. Yes or no? Do get and do post are methods of which one? HTTP servlet. You cannot override now. Correct. So you can override only one service. Which service? Generic service. Only one method you can override because you are extending now generic service. Okay. So you can do it. The generic service would be, yes, something like this. Service servlet request REQ, comma, servlet response RES, and you can write your logic. Perfectly it will run. Now the interview question to you is, what is the difference between HTTP servlet and generic servlet? You can write your servlets under two conditions, one by extending HTTP servlet, one by extending generic servlet. What is the difference between HTTP servlet and generic servlet? He'll ask. Okay. See, first you understand this. If you extend HTTP servlet, it is HTTP servlet. If you extend generic servlet, it is generic servlet. But functionality wise, what is the difference? Understood? Functionality wise, you have to understand. See, HTTP servlet means it is protocol dependent. The request should come from what? Browser only. It should be a HTTP request. It should be a HTTP request. Understood? Only if you are having a HTTP request, then only what? Your login servlet will execute. If it is extending what? HTTP servlet. The login servlet extends HTTP servlet means compulsory the request should come from where? Browser or HTTP request. Understood? Means if it is HTTP request only, not browser, there are many other tools using which you can generate what? HTTP request. But request should be mandatory HTTP request. It will execute. But this generic servlet is protocol independent. Let the request come from any protocol. HTTP, SMTP, FTP, anything. Means I'm just giving some protocols. Okay, it will go on executing. Clear? The request can be any protocol. Means it's not like, see, if it is extending now, like which one? Generic servlet. Let the request come from HTTP, it will execute. Let the request come from SMTP. I'm just giving you examples, but I can't show you this output. But what you have to understand is, let the protocol be any protocol. It is going on to execute now. Okay, but HTTP servlet is very strict. So, and we developers, we go on to extend HTTP servlet only. Reason is one kind of security will get. If you extend generic servlet now, any protocol can make the request and execute your code. That is very dangerous. So, we lose security. So, you got built-in security now. So, that's why always we end up when we are writing web applications. So, always we go on to extend what? HTTP servlet only. Because it's security now. Only when the HTTP request is coming, then only, or HTTP protocol request is coming, hypertext transfer protocol request is coming, that is when the login servlet will get executed. Otherwise, it will never execute. So, these are all your interview questions. Are you clear? So, what is the summary now? HTTP servlet is protocol specific. Understood? And it will execute only when the HTTP request comes. Generic servlet is protocol independent. It will execute when the request is coming from any protocol. Simple. So this is all you have to tell in the interview. Clear? These are very, 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 very important interview questions. So and all this, that is the reason. See, even though the interviewer will not ask you all this code to write, answering these questions becomes very easy to you now. Done? So fine. Then some more questions. Very tricky questions. See this now. So end of the day, see, this all will be coding. Public void login servlet. Technically we start coding like this. Login servlet extends what you know? HTTP servlet only. This is guaranteed now. This is guaranteed. And if you want, you override init. If you want. Means if you are writing any initialization code, if any initialization code is required for your servlet, then override init. Otherwise, no need to override init. I'll give you an example and show you. Understood? So if you need some resources like DB connection and all, that time you write it now. Done? Then you might have service method. Which service now? HTTP service you will have. HTTP servlet request REQ, comma HTTP servlet response RES. Fine. You will override. Done? Then one more. Last you will be having destroy method also. That is optional. So more interview questions now. Can I call destroy method in service? They will ask. These are all interview questions. Can I call destroy method in service? Means this you have written your logic. Whatever you want you will write. You know what is the code you write? Here you write initialization code. Yes or no? In destroy method what will you call? You write resource release code. Yes, you will write it. But the interview question to you is, can I call destroy in service? Yes, you can call it. No harm. What is there in calling it? You can invoke it, no? Understood? See, one option is container will invoke it. Other options you can invoke it if you want, but from service only. Okay, if you invoke, now what happens? When the request comes, all your code is getting executed. Destroy also will be called. That time what happens? Your resource will be released. But servlet instance is not destroyed. This is a very important interview question. Okay, servlet instance is destroyed only by the container. Okay, so by default what was happening before means when the server is shutting down or before the servlet instance is destroyed, destroy method was getting executed implicitly. But now what did you do? You invoked it. Okay, you invoke means it doesn't mean that servlet instance has to be destroyed. Servlet instance will be destroyed only when the server is going to shut down only. But you invoked it, it was your mistake. You don't do it. Understood? But if you invoke it, what happens? It will only release the resource, but it will not destroy the servlet. Very, 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 very important question. Done. Okay. So calling destroy method will never destroy the servlet. It will only release the resources initialized in your servlet. The servlet is destroyed only by the container. Done. More interview questions now. Can the service call init method? Yes, it can call it. No harm. But every time you call init, what happens? Again and again the initialization code will run. Why do you want to do it? Don't do it. But this is actually Java they are asking. Putting it in other way, it's like this. See, they are only checking, means it's a very tricky, these are all very tricky questions. See, if I have M1, M2 and M3 method, can M3 call M2? Yes. Can M1 call M2? Yes. You can call now, what is there? Same. But we are looking at some professional methods. That's it. Can M3 call M1, M2 call M1, same story. So definitely service can call destroy also, service can call init also. Okay. But the problem is, if you call init, initialization will happen again and again, so don't do it. If you call destroy, resource will be released, so don't do it. But to check your knowledge in Java, this is how they will be asking you the questions. Understood? That is one thing now. Next, can the init call destroy method? Sorry, can the init call, destroy? It can call. No issue, see this. It's like calling one method another method. But problem is what? Resource was initialized and released also. Now what will you do here? All this is correct. Now again, can the destroy call init? Yes, it can call. Now when you are releasing your resource, why do you want to initialize it? You can call it, but this is very tricky question. That's it. Are you clear with all this? Now fine. More questions. It's all in, you are playing around in these three methods. Can the init call service? Yes or no? No. No. Because to call service, you need request and response object. And you very well know now. When are the request and response objects getting created? When the request comes. Yes or no? So how will the init call service now? It cannot. Because to invoke this method, these two arguments are very, very mandatory. No? Service can be invoked only when you send those two arguments. So obviously you can't invoke it. That is how they will trick you. Finally they will ask you this question, you will tell what? Yes. Interview will become bus. Understood? So can the destroy call service? No. How will you get the request and response objects are there? As soon as service gets executed, they are destroyed. You cannot get the reference only here. Request and response objects will be supplied as implicit arguments to your method. We can never create it, nor can we get the reference to it. It will be supplied implicitly to your service method. Here only you have to use request and response object. Clear? So slowly you'll understand all this flow. Just I covered some interview questions to you. So to answer all these questions, the flow was very, very mandatory for me to explain. Clear? So I'll clear all interview questions. That is guaranteed. Provided you code, and how much you code, how much you are strong in I need service destroy, you can answer all these questions now. Done? So I'll be giving you plenty of examples and you'll be understanding all this very clearly. Shall I clear all this now? So fine. Now one more question is there. See here. In fact, HTTP servlet, okay, is extending generic servlet agreed. It is extending it. All the methods in HTTP servlet are concrete methods. All the methods in HTTP servlet are concrete methods. Please understand this point. Very important interview question. Okay, all are concrete. I'm writing 5 methods here. 1, generic service. 2, HTTP service. 3, do get. 4, do post. 5, do head. Still more methods are there. All are concrete. But still, the class has been made as abstract class. They don't want anybody to unnecessarily create this object. Understood? Why is HTTP servlet an abstract class? Even though it's having all concrete methods, they do not want anybody unnecessarily to create the object. That is one thing. Understood? And if you want to write a servlet, it is a mandatory rule now. You have to extend what? HTTP servlet only. Clear? So like this, plenty of questions are there. These are all very important questions. So are you clear with all the flow now? So remember this flow first. Servlet is the interface. Generic servlet is implementing it. HTTP servlet is extending generic servlet. We are extending HTTP servlet. And when you extend HTTP servlet, you have 2 options. Either override do get do post, or you override service. But finally I have told you, always from now on you make it a practice only better. Let your class extend HTTP servlet and start overriding HTTP service method only. Follow it. These are industry rules, standards. Reason is you will never know whether the request is what? Get or post. And you can't predict. Means why I am telling why you can't predict means you might be thinking, I have only written the HTML file. I know form action what I have given. But you are working with a single, which one? Means when you write some assignments, you will be using multiple servlets. You might, if I give some assignment I show you today, you will be using what? Multiple servlets. Okay, it is not like that. For all the requests, you will be having what? It will be big navigation will be happening. All the requests will be coming to what? Single servlet only. So in that case, you will not know whether this is get or this is post or whether this is get or this post. You will never know. So obviously, better is override service. Yeah. So this I will show you the example only. You don't have to worry about all that. So first I am teaching you concepts. After teaching you concepts, I will give you examples only. Clear? So all examples are what now? Output, concept based. Don't see and feel great you got output. Imagine one side I have to teach you concept also, other side I have to teach you about coding also. So how difficult, with what difficulty we should design the examples. Clear? For you it is what? Just one output. Shall I clear all this now? It is before going to interview, it is recommended that you see the notes of previous 2 classes, today's class, and go. Same thing I have documented, nothing else. Done? Whatever I put the questions to you now. I know you have very strong memory and you'll remember it for lifetime. So that's the reason what I'm doing. Writing it in document for you. Correct? Otherwise you'll remember it for what? If I don't give it in document, you'll remember whatever I taught you today for lifetime. Correct? So that's why what I'm doing, putting it in document. Let's start off from at least Servlet lifecycle. Instantiation, initialization, service, finalization and destruction. 5 stages. First request comes, I told just now what happens. Second request onwards, directly it will execute this. Done? Yes, now introduction to Servlet API now. See, this is the hierarchy. So your login Servlet can either extend, straight line indicates what? Extends. Dotted line indicates implements. Be careful. So a login Servlet can extend either HTTP Servlet or generic Servlet. Yes, now the same thing what I wrote there on the board. Okay, one thing I have not written on the board was this init method. I will be coming to this init method in the next class. So in fact what is happening here is in generic Servlet, it is having one more extra init method, means overloading. So in Servlet this init is there. Okay, generic Servlet is implementing it correct. Apart from that, it is having one more extra method, that is overloading. It is overriding one init and overloading the init. Done? So okay, that one method will cover it, no problem. And this method is an abstract class because it is abstract, having one abstract method. Generic Servlet is an abstract class because it's having an abstract method. Which is that abstract method? Service. But unlike if you say HTTP Servlet, it is abstract class, but do one thing, write this init in your class. You have written just now, na? In generic Servlet, write this init without parameters. Just one method you write. Clear? I'll be explaining that. Fine, next. So just write public void init, that's it. One extra method you write. Yes, now coming to HTTP Servlet. Public class HTTP Servlet extends what? Generic Servlet. Okay, so you know the flow now. This service will typecast and invoke what? HTTP service. HTTP service will check all like this and invokes what? Either do get, do post, but not from this class, but from your subclass. So like this, see all the methods are there. How many methods are there? Finally, which class it will invoke? If you are overriding, it will invoke from your class. If you want still clear explanation, best is what? Refer to Java docs. They are the best answers. Java doc, yeah. Select Oracle Techno Servlet API documentation. API. We are giving it to you actually in the DVD. You can see from there only. So the docs will open up. Now start seeing. We are moving to the package called as javax.servlet.http. This is the package what you are seeing now. Yeah, javax.servlet.http, but the Servlet interface is there in I think Servlet package javax. Yeah, this is here. Servlet is actually present in javax.servlet package. See this? So what is it having? What are the methods? Other methods leave, but important method is what? Init, service, destroy. Some 2-3 methods are extra. Leave that. Our main concentration is lifecycle method now. Clear? Destroy is there, init is there, service is there. Clear? Fine. Now this is implemented by whom now? It is implemented by, you can see, all known implementing classes. Generic Servlet, HTTP Servlet. So I'll first go to what? Generic Servlet. In generic Servlet, what is happening? In generic Servlet, what is happening? So many methods are there. Don't worry about that. Init is there, which I wrote. Which one? This extra method you wrote just now. Understood? And this one is there. It is overriding this. This is overloading. This is overriding. Some more, yeah, service is there. But it is abstract, see there. In generic Servlet, what is there? You wrote it just now. In generic Servlet, service is abstract. Then next, this is again having a sub interface. See there, direct known subclass. Which one? HTTP Servlet. Go see this. Little time you spend on the docs. That's it. So here see, they are going to give you all the information and read it. But see, do delete, do get, do head, do options, do post, do put, do trace. Apart from that, service. This is generic service. This is HTTP service. All methods are concrete. Any method is abstract here? No. But generic HTTP Servlet is what? Very clearly say it is abstract class. All methods are concrete, but still it is a abstract class. Docs will tell you what mean. Better than me, docs will tell, no? Yes or no? So refer to docs. You're very good in English. You can understand all these things now. Clear? So fine. So this is the story here. Next, coming to our point now. When we write our class, we do this. Means you make it as service. Later we will be doing it. But you will be extending and overriding service do get or do post. Fine. Servlet is the interface which is implemented by all your servlets. Servlet interface has the following three lifecycle methods. In Servlet Life, container calls the following three methods on the Servlet instance. Container calls init, service and destroy. When it will call? Only once when the Servlet instance gets created, init. Service every time the request comes. Yes or no? This one, second point. Destroy executes only once before the Servlet instance gets destroyed. Understood? Yeah, now the story. Generic Servlet is an abstract class and is implementing what? Servlet interface. Generic Servlet is implementing all the abstract methods of Servlet interface except service. So generic Servlet is an abstract class. HTTP Servlet is an extending generic Servlet and implementing the service method of generic Servlet, and also has some extra methods like do get, do post. See, if I had not explained you by writing that code, what would have you done now? By heart now. So I didn't want you to do that. So that's why I gave you that flow. Now clearly you are understanding all the points. See, HTTP Servlet class is extending generic Servlet and implementing the service method of generic Servlet, and also has, we finished that. HTTP Servlet class is an abstract class but has no abstract methods. You can write a Servlet by extending generic Servlet or HTTP Servlet. When you extend generic Servlet, then your class has to override one method called generic service. See all the points. Clearly, crystal clear, you are understanding now. Next point. When a service is extending HTTP Servlet, then you can override any one of the do ... means do get, do post, anything. Okay, or HTTP service method. Two options you have. Either override any do method or HTTP service method. Yes. Now the interview questions. Your interview questions. Just now I was putting to you now. Don't take pain, see. Luxury for you. Read document night, morning you'll clear the interview. That easy I made now. Clear? One document, a very powerful document. This document, you read this, you can clear any Servlet interview question. Which one? Interview. What is the difference between generic Servlet and HTTP Servlet? Generic Servlet is a protocol independent. That is, we can send a request to generic Servlet using any protocol. Understood? But HTTP Servlet is a protocol dependent. That is, we can send a request to HTTP Servlet only using HTTP protocol only. Done? More questions. Why is HTTP Servlet an abstract class without any, even though it's having all concrete, without any abstract methods? To force the developers to write a subclass for HTTP Servlet, that is one reason. Another one would be stop the creation of unnecessary creation of HTTP Servlet instance. When is the Servlet instance created? Favorite interview question. Two conditions. Okay, one, when the server starts up. If you have used load on startup tag in web.xml, correct? Other one, if you don't use it, when the client makes the first request to the servlet. Simple. Can I write an argumented constructor? We already seen this. I showed you with output only. Can I write an argumented constructor inside the Servlet class? You can write, but you will get problems. You will not get compilation errors, but during runtime you will get problems. Done? Can I write default constructor? Yes, you can write. The question is whether you can write or not. So all these question and answers, how you are answering now? Because you got that clarity in the code. These are your interview questions. So to make your interview questions what? Very clear, otherwise you would have by-hearted. I didn't want you to do that. So that's the reason I wrote all that clearly. Who will call the default constructor? Container calls the default constructor when it is creating the Servlet instance. Who will call the argumented constructor? No one will call it. Understood? To call the argumented constructor, you have to create the Servlet instance, which we cannot do. Creation of Servlet instance is not in our hands now. So writing an argumented constructor is useless only. Correct? Can I call? Yes, your interview questions now start. Can I call init method inside the service method? What is the use of that? Yes, we can call init method. Technically you can call it. Yes. logically, how will I put it? Technically you can call it, logically it will go wrong. Technically means what? You're getting the point now? Technically you can call it, but logically it will go wrong. So that's the idea. We can call init method inside service, but there is no use. When you call init inside service, Servlet instance will be initialized every time, which is not required. Next, can I call destroy method inside the service method? Yes, you can do that also. Why? It is normal, technical. Technical means what? Can M1 call M2, M2 call M3? Correct. That is technical. Logical means what? Your logic's going wrong now. If you do that, things will go wrong. So now, when I call destroy method inside the service, will the Servlet instance gets destroyed? No. Very important. No, it is a container which destroys the Servlet instance. We can't explicitly destroy the Servlet instance. Next question. What will happen if destroy method is called explicitly? Calling destroy method explicitly will only release the resource used by the Servlet, but will never destroy the Servlet. Only the container destroys the Servlet instance. Can I call destroy method inside the init method? Yes. Can I call init method inside destroy method? Yes. So like this will go on. Now can I call service method inside init? What will you tell now? Yes, you will tell. Interview will become bus. This is where you should be very careful. Understood? So now we are unable to call service inside init and destroy, because to call the service method we need what? Request and response objects, but we are unable to get or create these objects. That's why you cannot call it. What is the use of init method? Okay, it is used for initializing per resources. Like, this is only should be your answer. What is the use of init method means? Don't tell for database connection. Don't make that mistake. You're laughing now, but many people give these answers. Clearly, that's why stressing and telling you. Why do you use init method? To initialize the resources required by the Servlet. To initialize the resources required by the Servlet. Example for a resource is database. Example for a resource is database. Clear? That's how it will happen now. Now what is the use of destroy method? It is used for releasing resources. That's all. Used by the Servlet. Now next very important question. What is the difference between destroy and finally now? Correct. See, destroy is a life cycle method. But finally is a keyword related to exception handling. It is executed only once before the destruction of the Servlet instance, destroy. But that is executed every time when any method is invoked. Correct. Then next, it is generally overridden. That is very important. In our Servlet class for clearing object level resource, you will be using this in Servlet, but for clearing what? Method level resource. Very, very, very important interview questions. Clear? Practice all this. More things we'll be seeing in the next class. Done? And one second. I show an example now. Okay, where we'll see how to use the life cycle of the Servlet for coding. Okay, we got all this control now. Okay, so now let's see one example where we take control of which one? How do you write the use the life cycle for writing your code. Okay, so for that what I'll do, first let me explain the flow to you, then we'll come to that. See, the flow would be very simple now. The user will make the request, first request, and when the user makes the first request, you'll be getting an option, new user. There are plenty of concepts here. Code this. Existing user. 2 tabs you'll get. Okay. Then first see the flow. Then I'll tell all the concepts. As soon as you click on new user, it should be displaying me this. Telling what? Hello Mr. The same thing what we have done. Enter your name, enter your password, enter your email, enter your phone. We are trying to make him a customer now. And submit all the values. So this will be your screen. Again, when you submit it, again it should tell hello Mr. Thank you for becoming member. Yes. So see, now you'll now start needing resources now. How many resources first identify? So when you click on new user, it should display this page means, sorry, when you click the first page, you should get this one. So you'll need one file here. If you click on new user, it should execute and display you, give you this output. Again, if you enter values and submit, you should get this output. So like this, you'll start needing resources. See the flow. First understand requirement. Without understanding requirement, don't code, it's waste. You'll not know what to code only. So first understand requirement. So this is one thing. This is for what now? New user. By chance existing user comes. Okay, means I mean to say, I'll complete it once again. New user, hello mister, what do you have to write now code? Connect to database. Yes or no? If he is new user, what will you do? Connect to database, insert, and then you'll tell hello mister. All this is okay. Fine. Now see if it is existing user, let me click here. Means if he is clicking here, assuming that request comes and it will display in this page. I'll just write this side. Understood? I'll just write this side. It will ask him, enter name and enter password. And he'll say login. So now when he submits this, again one more logic should execute, which will tell him what? Welcome or not welcome. You already written this, but you have written it in what? Separate step. Now we are making them into one single application. That's it. So now see, here one more program should execute. So totally you need 5 resources. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 resources. Again, let me start the flow. First I'll go with what? First page. You get, what is the page it should display? This page, first request. This will be like home.html now. Why am I using HTML page? Static display now. Fine. But if you click on new user, it should execute this logic. And again display what? It is static display only. Yes or no? Here also I can use HTML. But I want to show you some concept. Okay, you can use HTML, it's perfectly valid. But I want to show you some concept. Here I'll use one servlet. I'll use one servlet now. Clear? To show you some concept. So that would be something like new user servlet. New user servlet. Done? So new user servlet will do pw.println and give this output. Instead of using HTML, I am doing this. So now when you enter this, it will verify with the database and again tell what? Means it will insert into the database and say, thank you for becoming a member. So for this I'll use, yes, here you have to use a servlet. Because you have to write dynamic coding. Only question here is, why am I using servlet here? That I'll explain to you. Because I want to show you some concept. Done? So that is one side. Now other side, if he clicks on existing user, what will happen now? What output you have to get? Enter name, enter password. This also I can get it using what? HTML. But I'll be using what? Servlet. Why? To make you understand some concept. So I'll be using it as exist user servlet. Some servlet name I'll give. Done? To show you some concept. Okay. So again when he enters these values and you are going to give back this response, here you need database connection. Yes or no? So here obviously you have to go for what? Servlet. So this will be definitely a login servlet. So totally I am having how many resources now? 5. One is HTML file and 4 servlets. My requirement is this now. According to this you have to code. Okay. First I'll show you the output and I'll tell you the concepts. Yeah, the concepts you understand here. What all concepts? First concept would be, see in one HTML file you are having 2 buttons. Submit button. Don't use link because I want to show you what? Concepts. You are having 2 submit buttons. So here if you want 2 submit buttons, you go for what? 2 forms. So one HTML file can have what? 2 forms. Understand that. Concepts. Don't go with links. Understood? So it will go with what? 2 forms. So if you click on new, one URL will be generated something like new. Because it has to go to the servlet now. That is concept. Okay. If you click on existing user servlet, existing user, it should execute this one now. For that you need one more URL. So your 2 forms you will have now. Because the servlet can never execute without what? URI value. So for both the servlets you need one. So that's why I put these 2 buttons into 2 forms. Both the buttons I put it into 2 forms. Concept now. Means what is the concept? One HTML file can have 2 two concepts, two forms. And why am I using two forms? To generate URL. Why am I using two forms? To generate two different URL. That is the concept. Fine, next. Now, once you get this display, see here, again here you navigated from HTML to Servlet. But now what is happening? You are already in Servlet. So you have to understand navigation from what? Servlet to Servlet. That you have to understand. Okay. So I'll be explaining that navigation. See, if you want to go from HTML to Servlet, you'll use .. But if you want to go from Servlet to Servlet, no, you will use .. That's one more concept you're learning. Navigation will be what now? From HTML to Servlet also, or from one Servlet to another Servlet you have to go. So that is why it will be .. That is one more concept. Then more concepts. Now, does new user Servlet, existing user Servlet need the database connection? No, it does not need. Why? It only has to do the display. Now, why do you want to use lifecycle methods there? Yes or no? So, where will you use lifecycle method? Only in login Servlet and customer Servlet. I am having 4 Servlets, but it doesn't mean that you use lifecycle methods everywhere. So, lifecycle methods will be used only in login Servlet and customer Servlet. Yeah? Don't use it in all this. When you require it, use it, else do not use it. So like this, plenty of concepts are there. Okay, so that is why code according to my requirement. I want to teach you something. I don't want you to get output here. Output you will get. You are very intelligent. All these years you have got what? Only output you have got. Yes or no? So from now at least start getting learning some things. Yeah? So only one thing is, see, here 3 concepts I am covering. One is, one HTML can have 2 forms. Understood? That one concept. Then next concept is navigation from HTML to Servlet, Servlet to Servlet. That second concept. Third concept is how to use lifecycle in coding your projects. 3 concepts I am covering. Okay, shall I clear all this now? So yes, the 9th example I will be referring now. Customer lifecycle app. Clear? That's the name of the project you take. Home.html. First understand the HTML. It's having what? 2 forms. See that? If I click on this submit button, it will generate the URL called as new. If I click on existing user, it will generate the URL called as exist. Because 2 Servlets you have to reach now. Yes, so that's why I'm going with 2 forms. Done. That is one concept. And you are using .. If I say you click on exist example. If I click on this button, I will show you output. If I click on exist user, what is the URL generated? Exist. So now it will come to the web.xml. If it is exist, it should execute what? Exist user, existing user Servlet. So it will come to the existing user Servlet. See how the navigation happens now. The application is growing bigger. Done. So here src will have existing user Servlet. So this is existing user Servlet. So let's open it. It's only doing what? Out.println. Nothing more. What? Enter your name, enter your password. More than that, nothing it is doing. But see, form action has been used in Servlet also. Why? Because here, when you display this display, you will be getting a button. You have to submit means it has to generate a URL. So that's why I will be using here also form action, but I will use single dot. I will be explaining that single dot concept. Because you are already in WebInf now. Control is already there. See, from HTML folder, if you want to go to, see, this is my app. This is HTML. This is WebInf. Done? So this is classes. And this is web.xml. If you want to go from HTML to WebInf, you have to use what? .. So first navigation that will happen. But next time you are already where? In WebInf. So that is why you will be using what? Single dot. Okay. If you understood, fine. Not understood, follow standard formula now. What? .. means navigating from HTML to Servlet is equal to .. navigating from servlet to servlet. That is all a relative path, man. And finally what you do is just start using it. Nobody will bother. // over. That's it. Clear? Don't break your head for silly things. Break your head for what? Business logic. Right? I'll give business logic. Done? Yes, you are here to write applications, man. So anyway, just all the things I'm covering now one by one from one corner, and finally we'll end up writing good applications now. Done? Now you have the talent, only have to get it out of you. It's not terrific talent you are having. Yes. So yes, let's see this home.html now. We'll start the server. And we will be interacting with database. Okay. First I showed you home.html now. Okay, that is okay. If you click, where it will go? Existing user servlet. If you click on that, see the URL is what? Check. If it is check, where it will go? Login servlet. Yes. So in exist user servlet, if you click, but did I use lifecycle here? No. Why? What I'll write in init method? If you want to use lifecycle also, what will you write here? So think twice when you use init and destroy method. But check servlet, it will go now. Means the login servlet will go now. It needs lifecycle. It needs DB connection. So for all the clients, you can't go on making what? DB connection. So that's the reason we'll put it in init. Done. And destroy method, everything normal. Same way that one. We'll see the output first now. Because finally, end of the day, output is the only answer for all your questions. Okay, you can type here or you can type there only. Okay, we'll go here. I think it will be visible there properly. Okay. What is the name? Customer lifecycle app. Port number is 8090. Yes, /html/home.html. Done. See this? If you want to see the view source, 2 forms, 2 URL now. Done. Now see, existing user. What is the URL? See there? Exist. I'll come back. New user. What is the URL? See? New. Understood? So this is how the URLs will be changed, and that corresponding servlet is getting executed. Learn navigation, because you can't go on typing what? User will only be busy with what now? Once he types the URL, next he'll be busy only with your screen. So he'll go on clicking buttons. So you have to go on giving him responses. So first I'll start with, see this, I'll come back. I'm in the first page now. I'll go with what? New user only I'll go. First. Okay. New user, when I click, 1 second, I think I'll go with the Chrome browser. Okay, Chrome will open up Apex. Okay, we're dealing with the customer table, data, so many values are there. I'll insert one value called as Z now. Clear? So, yes, see this now. So, new user is clicking, it goes to which servlet? You know the mapping. It is going to new users, which one? When I click on that HTML, new now, it is going to what? New. From new it will go to web.xml. If you see new user solid. What did new user solid do? Nothing. It did out.println. Nothing. What you are seeing. More than that, it's not doing anything. So no life cycle required here. Done. No life cycle required. Next, what I'll do? So I'll fill the values. Okay. But you know that now what I've used? Single dot. So fine, then what you'll do, you fill the values. I'll be giving a value like ZZZ, password is ZZZ, email ZZZ, phone number also 111, something like this. Done? So perfect. So as soon as I click on this I'll come here. See this. What is the URL it will generate? Sign up. He is signing up. Then next it will go to web.xml. Sign means it will go to what? Customer servlet. What is the customer servlet doing? It needs TB connection now. So now lifecycle required. You know what to do now. Get the connection, insert the value. All this coding I have shown to you. Once inserted, welcome, not welcome. That's it. Same thing will happen now. See this. Click here. Your values have been inserted into database. Go and check. You see that Z value is here. Yes. That's it. Concept important now. What concept? One HTML can have two forms. How you navigate from HTML to Servlet. How you are navigating from Servlet to Servlet. These are very important concepts. Understood? You can get the output in many ways. You can use links and all that. But you will not learn. And when you are in projects, you will get requirements like this. Somewhere you will be forced to do. So understand it. This will be very helpful for you in later part of your programming. So fine. Now about which one? I think now we can do it. Which one? Existing user. You know this one, it's displayed that Servlet. Same flow will be there. Ravi and Amog. Now one Servlet has got database connection, other Servlet does not have. Here also the flow, two Servlets are there. One which is destiny, enter name, enter password, and the other one which you saw now. One will need database connection, one will not. So one place you need lifecycle, one other place you don't need lifecycle. Same story. You code now. You actually see, once I give assignment, you should be able to code now. In fact, it is not my duty to show all the output like this and make you understand the examples. It is once I have taught you the concept and I give you the requirement, it is your duty to write all these applications now. Don't think that I have to give you the code. I am giving it to you, it is beneficial. It is used for what? Reference. I give you the requirement, I have told the concept. Now understanding all this, you start typing. If you copy paste this code and get the output, what will you learn? Understood? So always code like this. More it will become, and it will become more interesting also. All concepts clear now? Okay, that's it then.